Hello, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This is going to be the September book troop discussion for the book Good Bad Girl by Alice Feeney. Ooh.
I don't own it. I read the audio. I mean, I listened to the audiobook, so
No, that is totally fine. And I'm so excited to be joined by my amazing friends. We have this way, Ashley from Ashley's Little Library, as well as Marcy from Marcy Reads. I will have both of their channels linked down below, and this will both be. Is it your second times on the book troop? Oh, Marcy, I think this is your third, actually, maybe, right?
I think it's my second.
Oh, okay. I was like, I can't remember because I think. Wait,
We did 56 days.
Yeah, and then you were on 9 Lives, right?
Yes. Yes. And this is oh my gosh, 3 times.
I know, how cool. Yeah, and Ashley, I had you on with it was The Haunting, what was that book called?
Ashburn House, the Darcy Coates book.
Yeah. Yes, The Haunting of Ashburn House. That was a time.
That was a time.
Oh my gosh, so cool. Well, if you would like to go ahead and introduce yourselves to anybody who might not be familiar with your channels for any reason, maybe just kind of talk about what you do on your channels and what kind of books you read, that kind of thing. Ashley, if you want to kick us off.
Yeah. Hey everyone, I'm Ashley. My channel is Ashley's Little Library, and I mostly read spooky things, horror books, thrillers, mysteries, and I occasionally will read things with like a speculative edge to them, or if Emily Henry puts out a romance, I'm on it right away. And recently, Abby Jimenez, I started reading her stuff. It's really good too. Yeah, I do reading vlogs and the normal things, and I host a bi-monthly horror readathon, a 24-hour readathon where we read and watch horror. So if you are looking for a horror community to do things with, that happens every other month.
Yes. Very exciting.
Hi everyone, I'm Marcy from Marcy Reads, and my channel is just all about book hauls. I'm always doing book hauls every time I come back because I disappear for months at a time. And then I come back and I'm like, all the books, all the 7,500 books I bought while I was gone. But no, I read a little bit of everything from mostly horror. But lately I've been like in this cozy mystery world that I am just like enveloped in, that I'm loving. I read romance, I read mysteries. Seriously, a little bit of everything, fantasy, sci-fi. I love it all. Yeah. And I talk about my wrap-ups, and that's about it on my channel.
Yes. Perfect. Yes, I love both of these creators so freaking much. So seriously, if you haven't checked out their channels, links will be down below. Go and check them out. They're so great. And yeah, thank you so much to everybody who's joining us today. Thank you to everybody who's been reading along this month. This is going to be, gosh, I don't even know how many Alice Feeney books that I've read. I think I've read all of her books.
Wow, that's awesome.
I think
this is my first one.
Oh, is it your first?
Oh, wow.
I think I was actually going to check before getting on, but I don't think I've read anything by her.
Oh, wow.
Let me
check.
That's
so wild. Okay.
I have read all of them except Sometimes I Lie.
Oh, okay. I know. Sometimes I Lie. Was that her first one?
I think so.
Or, yeah, that was her first one. Nice. Okay. Well, thank you so much to everybody who's joining us in the chats. I could see you all, and I appreciate. So the beginning of this is going to be spoiler free for anybody who's just joining us and they just don't really know anything about the book and they just kind of maybe are curious to hear the general premise. But I would love to know if you are here because you have read the book. Maybe you can put like a black heart in the chat, and then maybe if you have not yet read the book, maybe you can put like a little skull emoji or something like that, just so I can get a visual for who's all here because they have read it and who's all here just to hang out for a little bit. But we will warn you before we jump into spoilers, so you can hang out for a bit if you haven't read the book. And then while everyone's doing that, Ashley, would you want to maybe just like pitch a non-spoilery synopsis for anybody who hasn't read it yet?
Sure. So kind of a weird one to give a synopsis of, because there's so much happening in it, and the synopsis doesn't give you too much of a lay of the land. But essentially, 20 years ago, a baby was stolen. Mm-hmm. Now, someone was murdered in a care home, and you're following a bunch of different POVs to understand how those things are connected.
That's amazing. I would have been like,
I did have to think about it because I'm like, how do you describe this book?
It's crazy.
Like, this is who this person is, and this. I'm like, no, there's things that happened. They're connected.
Yeah,
It's a bit of a tricky one to explain, that's for sure.
definitely.
Wow. Well, it looks like we have a lot of black hearts in the chat. So like,
So
thank you.
Black Hearts was that they didn't read it or that they
Black
did?
hearts was that they did read it, and then the skulls were that they didn't.
Okay.
So like, wow, thank you so much for reading along with us this month. That is so exciting to see so many black hearts. Okay, I feel like we should just jump right into ratings, so just so we know how each other feels about it. I'm very curious to see because I do think overall, from what I've seen on Goodreads, it looks like this book is being rated a little bit lower compared to some of Alice Feeney's like recent stuff that she's come out with. So I've just been really curious to know what everybody thinks about this because I've been seeing so many different feelings across the board of like either people really loving this one, feeling very middle, or not really liking it too much. So I've been really curious. I know that you guys just recently finished it, so we don't know how each other feels about it yet, which is very exciting. But while we're discussing our ratings, I would love in the comments if you could let us know how you felt about this book, what you rated it out of 5, just general ratings. And yeah, so Ashley, do you want to start with what you rated it?
Sure. I gave it a 2.
What? What?
I had a feeling you guys were going to enjoy it based on what I know about your reading, and I think I'm going to be the evil villain of the chat today.
There's always good to have somebody that doesn't like it and somebody that does.
I agree. I like the mixed.
Yeah.
The mixed. Okay, Marcy, how did you feel about it?
Oh, I'm sorry I interrupted you, Ashley, but you can continue.
Do you want me to say more? I thought we were just stopping
okay. I was literally finishing, or I didn't finish. I had like 3 minutes left. I was telling the group, but I got the gist of it. I know everything that happens, and I'm wondering if it's my first Feeney, because I checked. It is my first Feeney that I absolutely loved it. I mean, I was confused for most of it, to be honest, but I enjoyed it at the end. I liked all the turns and stuff. So I think I'm going to give it 4 stars. I think.
Oh, nice. Amazing. Well, okay. So Ashley, you won't be the only villain because I also gave it 2 stars. I'm so sorry. Oh, okay, nobody's more upset about this though than I am because I have been loving Alice Feeney. Like Rock Paper Scissors and Daisy Darker were both 5 stars for me. So
Okay.
like I went into this one thinking like this is gonna be my new favorite thing. I'm so excited. Like Alice Feeney's my girl. Like let's go. And I was so like let down by this. And I think the main reason for me was just because this didn't feel like an Alice Feeney to me. It just felt very different from her other stuff, and it felt a lot more of like a slow burn kind of mystery as opposed to like a thriller,
Yeah.
And I just personally had trouble connecting with any of the characters, and I felt like there were just so many of them. But it was a bit tough. It was a little tough for me.
So I'm wondering if I'm going to try to read those 2. I'm wondering if that'll change how I feel, given that I haven't read her before.
Yeah, I'm curious to see. I was going to say, Ashley, what
2.
Okay.
So tell me again what they are.
Rock, Paper, Scissors. That was a
okay.
5 for me as well.
Okay.
And then you said Daisy Darker was a 5 for you as well, Gabby?
Yeah, it was
That
for
a
me.
4 for me. So I liked that one as well.
Okay.
His and Hers was a 3. I Know Who You Are was a 2. And then I haven't read Sometimes I Lie.
Okay.
Interesting. Yeah, I think His and Hers, I think I gave that one 4 stars. And then what's it called? I Know Who You Are. I think I also gave that one a low rating.
That was a 2. I gave that one a 1.
Oh yeah. That one, the twist, like I was like, nah, dude, not for me.
That was wild.
Yeah. And then I think Sometimes I Lie. I think I gave it like 3 or 4 stars. I really liked that one, but it's been so long, like don't remember anything about it. But
I think I own the majority of her books because they've been book of the month, if not all of them. But this is the first one that I read, and I'm really interested now to really jump into another one and see how I feel.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I love how Elizabeth is like predicting what we would have rated it.
Yeah, I saw that. She was talking about that in her live show last night because it was her book club pick too. But I hadn't finished the book until like midnight, so I watched it this morning and I saw she predicted I'd give it a 2. And I'm like, how do you know me so well?
I have to watch her live. I saw that she had like a scheduling of it, but I couldn't log on.
I know. I caught a bit of the playback of her live, and I saw that they all rated it like really highly. So then I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Because I was like, "Then what if Ashley and Marcy rate it highly, and then I'm the only one who comes on here like?"
Oh man.
So funny. Yeah, I mean, I wish that I had given it 4 stars. That would have been cool. But yeah, so okay, yeah. So we did discuss if we've read this author's other books. I wanted to talk about, you know, the writing style in this book and the pacing and the atmosphere and how you kind of felt about that in this book, because for me personally, I felt like this book had no atmosphere at all, which was kind of one of my complaints with it, you know, because I feel like with Rock Paper Scissors it was like this snowy atmosphere ambiance, and then with Daisy Darker it was like these island stormy vibes, and it was like so fun, whereas like this book I felt like it completely lacked an atmosphere for me. But I was just wondering with you guys, like, how did you feel about the writing and the pacing overall and the atmosphere?
Yeah, Marcy, do you want to go first so we can start on a positive note?
Sure, sure. And it's funny because even though I'm giving it 4 stars, I think I just like the outcome of it. But at the beginning, I struggled with it because number one, I started reading it last night after you messaged us, and I was like, oh crap, okay. And I started listening. So I think I was just jarred into the story. And then seeing that it was so many point of views, I was like, oh my gosh, I did not get a clear reading of this until like towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
But even though with all of that, I liked it, I thought the pacing was enjoyable. I liked just following the story and being like, wait. And I felt like I kept getting the characters confused, which I was. But I thought it was pretty good after I got, over the confusion of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt really similarly. I felt like this book had no atmosphere. And sometimes I describe books as feeling like they exist in this like black void. Like I feel like I'm in the author's brain as they're writing it and it's not fully developed. And that's how I felt with this. Like I couldn't see it. It didn't feel fully developed. And I think a lot of that came from, I was also super confused with all the POVs. There was too many, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it felt like she was trying to do what she does well in writing, like a really fast paced, like short chapters, keeping you intrigued. But because the chapters were so short and there were so many POVs, each scene didn't feel fully developed to me. Like I felt I never got absorbed in a scene because it's always just like, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. And this is character and this character and this character. And like who, what, where, when, why, how.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I agree that the point of views was a little bit much for me, and it made the pacing of the book feel a little bit slower, because I find that sometimes it's hard for me to get invested in any character when there's just so many that we're following. You know, it kind of just gets like overwhelming, and I'm trying, most of the time when I'm reading their perspective, I'm just trying to remember who they are or something, you know? But I thought this was an interesting comment from Julie, because I know they were talking about this last night on Elizabeth's live show as well, kind of like discussing the difference between a thriller and a mystery, and whether books, like, because I know most books that we read kind of do fall into both categories, but I do really feel like this might be a scenario where it's more of just a mystery and not as much of a thriller. Or I think Haley even said in the live show that she would call this one like a quiet thriller, which I would agree with, you know?
Okay.
Yeah, just because I feel like I don't know, because I feel like a lot of times with thrillers, it's like we go in with expectations of like the book's gonna be really like action packed and like fast paced and just kind of like keep us on the edge of our seat, you know? Whereas like with the mystery book, it's more of like you know, like there's two main mysteries that we're trying to solve in this book, and it's more of like a slow burn as like the characters start to uncover things, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I agree. Definitely a mystery. Because I mean, there was while I was reading, I was like, oh, this thrilling. No, I was not thrilled in the least.
Mhm.
And so yeah, definitely a mystery. And maybe that's why it appealed to me so much, because I think I'd rather a slow burn of a book than like, I mean, I love a good action-packed book, but I crave more of a slower paced.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, well, as far as like point of views go, for anybody who hasn't read it, just to get an idea of like what we're dealing with in this book. So we do have 4 main point of views that we're reading from in this book. So we get this woman Edith, we get Cleo, we get Frankie, and we get Patience, which was quite a bit of point of views in my opinion. And I was just wondering, as far as like those point of views went, was there any point of view that you like enjoyed the most? And then was there also any point of view that you just thought was like not really necessary, that like you could have done without in this book? I was just curious about how you felt about those.
Yeah, I would have really preferred if this book had focused on either one POV or Edith and Cleo's. I was
Mm.
most drawn to their stories. I think they fall at the center of a lot of things going on, and
Mhm.
it would have helped things not be so confusing, I think, and then reveals would have felt more satisfying. Focusing on them, I wasn't really as interested in Frankie and Patience. But I
Mhm.
will say I really appreciated that Alice Feeney did such different names for them, because sometimes you get 4 POVs and it's like Chuck and Charles
Yeah.
and Harry, and you're like, who are all these C name people? So they were very distinct names, which helped a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think that Frankie was my least favorite out of all of them. I don't know why. I just thought she was very like blah. And then I really enjoyed Edith and Patience a lot. I think Edith was my favorite all around. I don't know if because, well, I'm not going to say no more, but I think Edith is my favorite.
Yeah. I know. I think I agree that Edith was my favorite just because I was kind of invested in like what was going on with her and how she had that whole backstory about how she like used to be a detective.
Yeah.
And if you haven't read the book, Edith is actually the 80-year-old woman who's like in the care home in this book. So reading about her point of view was actually pretty interesting, I thought. But I would agree that I actually think one of my least favorite point of views was Cleo, just because of her relationship with her brother. What's his name? They just drove me fucking crazy. Like they
Yeah.
drove me nuts. Like
Oh,
and yeah, anytime I had to read about them, I was like, oh, like they just kind of reminded me of like those siblings in the book we read earlier this year, the How to Sell a Haunted House. The sibling relationship in that book. I was just like, oh my god, like reading about adult siblings who like act like this to each other.
it's the worst because it's
Yeah,
like kid relationships, but like
yeah.
magnified to being an adult. And did you guys read or listen to the audiobook?
I just
I
read.
did both.
You did both? Okay. I'm asking because I'm wondering if Edith was also my favorite because when she came on the audiobook, she had like that Ireland accent, and I was just like, oh, every time the narrator would talk, I was like, I just want her to just talk about her all day.
Yeah, I know it did have a cute accents on the audiobook. I did like that. Yeah, Cleo was a bit much for me. um, yes, I agree. But yeah, I was wondering, let's see, what was my next thing? Okay, I think we should just jump into some spoilery things now because I feel like some of the things we want to talk about with like likes and dislikes might be kind of spoilery, so I don't want to risk spoiling anybody. So from this point forward, we will be discussing some spoilers. So you've been warned if you haven't read it or if you just don't want to be spoiled. We will be doing spoilers from this point forward. So one of the questions that I had where we can just kind of jump into spoilers now was like, throughout, or no, I guess I just want to ask like, what were some of your favorite aspects of this book? You can get into spoilers if you want, or what was some of your least favorite aspects of this book? Like, what contributed to why you rated this book the way you did? And if you want to get into spoilers with that, you can.
Okay, you could start, Ashley, because I gotta think.
Yeah, me too. Things I liked about it. I really enjoy reading about mother and daughter relationships. That's just a common theme in my reading. And I always enjoy the nuance and complexity there.
Mhm.
So I like the concept and like some of the ideas that it was exploring. And the reason I was so drawn to Edith and Cleo and that I wish it would have explored their relationship more is I don't know. I thought it was such an interesting thing to see. Edith is such a complicated character who we all liked her reading about her, but she's like kind of horrible in the decisions that she made in the past. So
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting to uncover like how she may have changed over time and lessons that she learned over the years and if she regrets things or if she felt like she made the right choices and then how that affected Cleo coming from that being her mother and then like the choices that she made and all of
Mhm.
the connection points there. So I like the themes and the ideas that it's exploring. And I really like how the end all comes together, how it like pieces all these tiny little clues together of like what was going on with that bear she sent to Edith being a spy device and the dog being the one to knock it over and the red tennis shoes and like everything had to be perfectly aligned for that to make sense.
Mhm.
And then that's really what kicked off everything. So like in retrospect, you see everything differently with the way it comes together. So I thought that was done really well. And then what I
Mhm.
didn't like was
Everything.
Everything.
too many POVs, not a lot of character depth. Like there was so much more I wanted to explore with Edith and with Cleo and like psychoanalyzing them a little bit more. And it felt really surface level. So probably because I like to read mother-daughter dynamics, I want to go really deep on that. And it didn't feel like it went as deep as I wanted it to go.
Mhm.
I think my favorite part was realizing who Frankie was, that ending to that chapter, I was like, "What?" And that was the only time that I did that. Oh my gosh, when the reveal came. I really enjoyed that. I'm not much on like mother-daughter relationships. It just touches a nerve for me that I just no. But surprisingly, I did enjoy this one, and I enjoyed the mystery of Patience and, wanting to know, where she came from. What I did not like definitely was the POVs. Like, please, I was super like I usually go into a book confused. I don't know why. Yeah, I'm always like the first page. I'm like, I'm not getting this. I'm single book. I guess that's normal, but it really irks me. And feeling like this for like half of the book was just because, sometimes 2 chapters in, there's like some sort of clearance, but there was none in this one. So I would say that it would be the same like that, the POVs. Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. The POVs are a little intimidating for sure. Yeah, I agree. I think the thing that I liked about it, I also really do like reading about mother-daughter relationships, and I thought that that was like a really interesting aspect in this book. And kind of something I wanted to touch on that Elizabeth was saying in the live show last night was how Alice Feeney is a really good writer, the way that she makes you like assume things about the characters, because I saw she was talking a lot about that, how like she'll just drop you right into the scene and just make you like make assumptions about things, like say for like example, like right at the beginning when Frankie goes to see her mom at the cemetery, and then it like makes you make the assumption that like, oh, her mom must be dead, but it's like you really know like the identity of her real mom or whatever. It's like because she sets up her scenes in a certain way, you just have to assume a lot of different things, which I do really like about her writing style. Like I think she's a really talented thriller writer. But yeah, but as far as things I didn't enjoy, I feel like for me personally, like I don't like in thrillers when every single plot twist is around the identity of a character, because for me I felt like every twist in this book was just about, oh, this character, this is how they're connected to that one, or this is like their true identity or their real name. And it was just kind of like, okay, but I have to care about these characters in order to care about any of that.
Yeah.
So I guess like I just expected something a little bit more from the story for me. And I also feel like I don't know about you guys, but once it was revealed that or once I put it together that Patience was Frankie's daughter, from that moment I thought it was so obvious that like Patience was the baby that was like taken from the stroller. And I don't know if that was supposed to be like an obvious thing or if that was supposed to be like a plot twist.
I didn't realize.
Oh yeah.
I felt like that was supposed to be kind of obvious. It felt like it was kind of throwing you a bone where she's like, I know everything I'm writing is really confusing and you're not going to get it until page 200. So I'm going to let you feel smart and that you know who the stolen baby was. And then you can't piece anything else together.
Well, because I was just like, as soon as it said Frankie's daughter was missing, like they said that right at the beginning, they were like, her daughter's missing, she ran away. And then Patience in her chapter, she was talking about, like, I think she mentioned how she ran away, or there was something where I was like, okay,
Yeah.
those two are connected. I put that together right away. But then the fact that the baby getting stolen was 20 years ago, and then Patience kept talking about how she's like 18 or 19 years old, I was like, bruh.
Oh, I must have been like really confused through the whole thing to even try to piece. I was just trying to piece together all the characters, but I missed all those things, or I didn't really pinpoint to those.
Yeah, that's why I was confused, because I was like, okay, is Alex Feeney trying to like set this up like this is gonna be a plot twist later on, or like should it be this obvious to me right away? Like that's why I was kind of confused on those setups for me. Like they were just kind of, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's why I think it just kind of fell flat, because I was like, are these supposed to be like shocking reveals when like I've known this the whole time? Like what do you mean? But yeah, but then I also like I wanted to ask, were there any reveals in this book, especially to Ashley since you didn't really enjoy it too much, but like were there any reveals that really shocked you in this book or that you didn't see coming?
Yeah, I agree with Marcy on the Frankie twist. Frankie being Cleo's daughter, which actually makes her Patience's, or what's her name? Nellie? Eleanor?
Yeah.
Her sister, biological sister versus adopted or biological mother, which you're kind of assuming in the beginning. That really got me. I was like, oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah.
I never saw that coming. Like I was not thinking about her age to piece together how that would be possible. That was the only shock moment I had in the book, but it was good. And then I was also surprised in the ending that all three of them were involved in the death of Joy. I thought it was going to be just like Patience and Edith, or just Cleo and Edith. And the fact that they were all together and hiding the secrets together, I thought was cool.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised by that one too, but I did not even think, I couldn't even fathom who was the one that killed Joy. I was like, oh, I don't even know who it is. So it surprised me too when I saw that it was all three of them.
Yeah. I know, I agree. The whole thing with like Frankie being her sister, like that threw me too, because I was like, I didn't think like the age difference between them would like match up for that to even be possible. So like that's what I mean, because I feel like since Alice Feeney like forces you to like make assumptions, I don't think we ever really knew the age of like some of them. So it was like it didn't click for me.
I don't know about anything else about anybody else, but I thought that she had aborted that first one. And so when that happens, I'm like, wait, what? Even if we would have known birthdays or ages, I think I don't know. I did not expect that one.
Well, yeah, because there was mention of Cleo, right? She had mentioned how she either aborted or she like lost her first baby or something, right? It was like
yeah, when they were explaining about the mom being super religious, I think she was talking to her brother, and she mentioned how when she wanted not to have that baby, the mom was super against her or something like that. Or I don't know, or I can't remember, but I thought that it was an abortion. I didn't think that it was going to be an adoption.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like she threw that in there to try to like mislead you to make you think that baby like wasn't alive or something, or like that kind of thing. But yeah, I also agree with what Ashley was saying about how like I didn't see that coming with like the end reveal with like all three of them being involved in like the death of the manager at the care home, and also like the way that the manager at the care home was like working with some of the kids to like kill people at the care home.
That's insane.
I was like, oh, okay, because like the whole thing was that the brother Jude, who's like the total douchebag asshole that I couldn't stand, he had like worked with her to like, he was like, I'll give you some of my inheritance if you like help kill my mom. Like that was a little bit surprising.
I mean, that's insane. Like you can't even trust your damn own kid.
No. And that like made me so sad when I think Edith had that one quote when she was like, I am the villain of my daughter's story and she is the villain of mine or something. I was like, oh my gosh, like what?
Yeah.
Complicated mother-daughter relationship.
I know. It was so deep. But I like that how you know the story's so focused on the like Cleo and Edith mother-daughter relationship that it took so long for me to even realize Jude was like Edith's son too, you know, because like she never even brought up her son.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh, what? Like I think that was a little reveal in its own way that like Jude was her son, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
But
I did. I saw someone I was looking at Goodreads reviews, and someone was like, this book makes you think there are only 5 people who live in the UK because it's crazy how everyone's connected in it. Like that's very true.
Yeah, that is so true.
Oh man.
Yeah, I agree. I was shocked about Frankie being Cleo's daughter, but I didn't like how that storyline got thrown in at the end. I know it was hard. You know, something that did bother me about the end that I meant to bring up is how why was Cleo like so set on the fact that Frankie was lying? You know, because like there was that moment where Frankie like confesses to her, right? She's like, I stole the baby and like I have her, whatever. And the way Cleo reacted was just so unrealistic to me. I was like, why is she so certain that Frankie's lying to the point where she just dismisses it? Like, nope, my daughter's dead. Like, you know?
I think it's weird. In denial. I think that 20 years later, she didn't want to go down that path again, maybe. And so she was like, well, you know, no, I'm not going to believe it. Because what about if she's just fucking with me?
Yeah. I mean, fair, but like, I was just like, girl, what? Like, the complete dismissal of it. And like, I was like, she's right there. Like, what?
But yeah, like you could be seconds away from really finding out, you know, who your child is.
Yeah. I know. I thought that scene was really interesting when Cleo actually had that moment again with Patience or like Nellie at the end when she stole Frankie's van or something, and then she like had her in the car, and it was like for a second you're like, oh shit, like she's gonna tell her everything, and then she like decides not to, you know, which I thought was an interesting choice, like because it almost like made me teary-eyed, which was weird because I didn't even think I gave a fuck about any of the characters, but when she was like,
got teary-eyed.
Yeah, she's like, did you have a happy childhood? And she's like, yeah. And then she was like, okay. And she like chose not to say anything. I was like, oh,
I know, I know. And you know, you also got to think about that when all this happens, that the child is taken away, she's really going through really bad postpartum depression.
Yeah.
And so I think she just grouped all of that up and was like, okay, I really cannot go back there. I really related to at the beginning when the mother was like, sometimes I want her to disappear, you know, because
Mhm.
I remember when my child was little, well, a baby, she wasn't even little. I was like, I wouldn't think that, but it was just so hard. And that's just some things that mothers don't say out loud. And so I
Yeah.
thought that was pretty interesting that I related to it so quickly in such a negative way.
Yeah. No, I think that's so true. And I think it's interesting that more and more, like, not just thrillers, but a lot of books seem to be like touching on this topic of motherhood and just kind of showing the real like struggles of like how hard it is and how, that postpartum depression can really affect you mentally and just make you think things that you wouldn't obviously normally think. But I mean, I can't even imagine the struggles of raising a child, so
Yeah.
I can't relate, but I totally understand. Like yeah, that's something intense to connect to right
Yeah.
away. And yeah, I do know what you mean about how, yeah, if she had a lot of people like faking what they knew happened, it's probably just like too much emotional trauma for her to like try to go through
Yeah.
that again. But at the same time, I'm like, girl, she's right there. She's not like, what do you mean? Very funny. Something too that I wanted to mention that I thought drove me nuts throughout this book that I don't know if you guys picked up on, but was how many times Alice Feeney had to be like, sometimes good people have to do bad things, or like sometimes bad people and good people are the same people, or like
Do not get me started on this. I compartmentalize that. I knew going in, the more books I read from Alice Feeney, the more frustrated I get with her writing because it is chock full of cliches,
Oh,
statements about life. And you read a whole paragraph that's just about this is what it is to be a woman. This is
yeah,
what it's to be a mother. And I'm like, what's happening in the scene?
get
Just
over it. Yeah.
don't tell kind of thing. And so I knew
No.
right away. I read the first page of this book and I said, oh, she's done it again. I have to
Yeah,
compartmentalize that and just move on so I can read the book.
Oh,
that's
wow.
what I
Okay.
mean. That like drove me crazy. I should have counted how many times there was a quote of that kind of nature. I was like, dude, we get it. The book is called Good Bad Girl, and you're trying to show how people can be both good and bad at the same time. But
So
like,
deep. So
I don't
deep.
whoa. But like the amount of times Alice Feeney would drop in a quote of like, sometimes good people have to do bad things, or like sometimes even the worst people can be good sometimes, or something like that. I was like, bro.
Get over it already. We get it.
Yeah, I was like, all right. Yeah, it was just repeated a lot. It was quite a bit. I just noticed it. I took note of it. And even at the very end of the book, it was like another paragraph at the very end that was just like all of that again. I was
Oh
like,
my
cool.
gosh. Just get
I'm
over
glad.
it, you know? Yeah, sometimes I feel like authors want to give like these positive messages like that to uplift you, but I'm reading about a mystery. I don't need to be uplifted. I understand.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like, let me get to that realization in myself and say, like, wow, your characters are so nuanced. And I'm like thinking about these things about life, not you're telling me what you
Yeah.
think about life.
Not being spoon fed that quote like 8 times during the book. Like, if I haven't hammered it home enough. I know, I agree. I think it should have been more of like an implication, not so direct with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I know. I agree, Katie. It's like sometimes it can be wise versus cliche, but when it's just hammered home so many times in a row, it just starts to feel pretty cliche.
Yeah.
And because I've seen that keep happening in her books more and more, it's just like
Hmm.
really getting to me. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
Wait, which one's your worst? I think you gave one of them 1 star, right, Ashley?
I Know Who You Are was my worst.
Okay.
That one was really twist based, I think. Uh,
Oh,
like I remember in Daisy Darker, there's a lot of that too, and I still enjoyed that book, but I had to like compartmentalize the writing.
Mm-hmm. I know. I saw Jan talking about the pink house was mentioned, like the color.
oh my gosh, like for real. I was like,
I was just like, oh, cool, she got a pink house. Like, I don't know.
yeah, and it like the house had some part of it because even the mom was like, "Oh, I remember being in this house. I never thought I would be back in this house when they're walking in." And I'm like, "Okay, what's up with this house?" Like, I wasn't getting a ritzy vibe out of it. Like, they had to tell me that I was getting like a cottage kind of vibe. I'm getting like special, not like mansion or anything. But when they mentioned later on that it's like this mansion, I'm like, why does it have to be pink?
Mm-hmm. It's interesting what Emily said. If the pink house is a representation of wealth, if that's like a thing.
I'm guessing because in one of them they talk about her position. I think like her husband had money and then she's a therapist, right? Is that or she what? Yeah. And so it's supposed to be that they had money, but if I didn't know that fact about like the pink wealth thing in the UK.
Yeah, I didn't either. That'd be cool. Okay, I think we're starting to wrap things up. Was there anything specific that you guys wanted to talk about spoiler wise, like anything in the plot that you were just like burning to talk about before we start to wrap up the live show?
I was just excited that I finished the book. So I was like, I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. No, you did amazing. You just put it right to the time and you got it done.
I did. And I was like, I was telling everybody that wanted something from me. I'm like, nope, I have a live tomorrow and I got to finish this book. Let me be.
I love that. I appreciate it. I do.
Oh.
I appreciate it so much. Yeah, and I'm glad you ended up enjoying it more than me and Ashley did. So
yeah, I was super surprised and so happy about it because I'm like, if I like slammed this book down my gullet and I did not like it, I was.
Oh my gosh, so funny. Okay, well, one of the final questions that I had was, how did you feel about like that very ending of the book, and did you like the way that it wrapped up, or did you see it like going any other way that you would have preferred? Because I think for me with like thrillers, I don't love when thrillers end on like a happily ever after kind of like everybody's happy kind of note. So like I was just kind of like about the ending. But how did you guys feel about it, and was there anything else you thought could have happened at the end to improve the story?
I don't know. It was a little weird, happily ever after moment at the end. I can't remember the end of other Alice Feeney books, but it was just unexpected to me. You know, I was expecting it to end with some kind of like ominous note.
Yeah.
Oh, is there like another secret we didn't actually get brought to the surface or something? I also thought it was interesting that Edith died the way they killed her off in the book.
Yeah.
That made me kind of sad. But I don't know. I don't know what else I would have liked to happen. I liked the reveal of how the Joy was murdered and all of that. And I guess it's nice that they decide to be a family after, but it was a little like, come on, we could have just like ended on a little woo moment.
Yeah.
Edith comes back. Edith, is that her name? She comes back.
Yeah.
I love a happily ever after, like in any like horror, extreme horror, anything. Give me a happily ever after because that means that I have some kind of closure. I need closure. I don't like just things left like that or like a secret that pops up and I'm like, well, what happened after that? How did they resolve that? I need resolution. So I really did enjoy how this ended, that little happily ever, even though I did not finish the happily ever after, but I started the happily ever after.
You know it's there. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was hoping for Patience, Frankie, and Cleo to become a mother-daughter killer trio.
Oh my God. That would have been for Ashley. That would have worked.
Yeah, that would have been an ending.
That would have been good. Yeah.
I do think there's some parts of this book that just could have been delved into so much deeper and been more interesting. Like if this whole book, I really just think it should have come from Edith's perspective. And she's like this former detective living in this care home where people are being murdered because their family members are having them. That's so interesting. And that's just a small fraction of what the book is. So I wish we would have just gotten deeper on some things.
I would love to read your book, Ashley.
Yes. Ashley got ideas.
Yeah.
I know. I agree that I think it should have just been one or maybe two point of views, and it could have been a lot stronger because I feel like we could have gotten even more attached to the characters that way and cared a lot more about what was happening, at least for me. Because I did like Edith's character a lot. But yeah, it was kind of a bummer that Edith ended up dying at the end.
I know. I think it's because how would Cleo resolve that inside of her, that her mom paid somebody to have, even though it was the sister and it was very well cared for, the child was very well cared for, still finding out that your mom paid somebody to have your baby taken away in the worst part of your mental state. I don't know that they could have fixed that.
Yeah, that was one thing too that I was left a little uncertain on, and I saw they were talking about that in Elizabeth's book club as well, as to whether Edith paid Frankie to take the baby, or if that was like a misconstrued conversation, and then Frankie came and took her the next day, and Edith didn't know that was going to happen.
Oh, yeah, because she shoos her away, right, and says,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to.
I thought
It
she
just
was
makes like
paying
an
her.
offhanded remark, like take $10 and the baby too, because she's crying and won't shut up. And then the next day is when the baby goes missing, and she's like, "Yeah, I think Frankie followed me to the supermarket and made
And
that
did
decision."
it.
I know. I thought I had assumed that she was paying her to like make her leave like their lives and be like never see us again kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
I thought she was paying her off or whatever.
Right.
But
And
no,
then
I
she
didn't.
took the baby. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Ah,
didn't consider that she thought that that meant was like she was paying her to take the baby. I didn't think about it like that.
For 10 pounds, hefty price.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, something that I thought was interesting that was like kind of a twist too is the fact that Edith was the one watching the baby when the baby was taken, you know, because I feel like at the beginning or once I connected that it was like Patience or once it was revealed that like Cleo was the one with the baby, you just assumed that like Cleo was the perspective, I guess, in those chapters. So it was
Yeah.
kind of shocking to me to see like, oh, Edith was the one watching the baby when it went missing because I was like,
Yeah.
oh, like, I was like, no wonder their mother-daughter relationship is so awful
Yeah.
because she like blames her probably, you know? So
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up because I loved that part too. I just lost my train of thought. Remind me again. I do that a lot. I'm sorry.
know about how Edith was the one in the store.
Yeah, I love when she gets to the house, when Edith gets to the house, and I thought that she was telling the cops, I gotta tell that she wanted to do it by herself when she goes in the house. I thought she's talking about her husband, right? So I'm waiting for the husband to come up for her to tell her. And when she walks into Cleo's room, I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I loved that part so much. And like her going up to that room and then realizing that her daughter didn't trust her with the baby. And obviously we know later because she was kind of a crappy mom, sort of like abandoning the two kids. But
Yeah.
I love that part so much.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Those were a few shocking moments that I was like, oh shit. But at the same time, like, I still feel like every twist in this book was revolved around like the identity of a character, like the true connection or, you know, relation between them. Um, but interesting. And then my last question that I had, sorry. Oh my gosh, still recovering from being sick. I was just wondering if you had any, you know, like books or movies or TV shows that you would compare this to, you know, for anybody who enjoyed this, like maybe they would also like this other thing. Um,
Oh man,
if
that's
there's anything.
the wrong thing to ask me because I go like blank.
Yeah, I know.
Anything in my life. I've never read a book.
Yeah.
I prepared a list of a couple
Oh,
things that I thought of.
I love how prepared you are, my Virgo. There's
Um,
two types of Virgos, Ashley and then me.
an August Virgo and a September Virgo. It really makes all
Oh,
the difference.
Yes, because I feel like August is more towards Leo. I know Leos are very organized and tedious. My husband and my mom are both Leos. And so I see a lot of that in August Virgos. That's so
Yeah.
cool. Okay, go ahead.
The first one I thought of was None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell, just in terms of like the structure of the book and having multiple POVs and women and lies. And if you want something that's like shocking and fun, maybe that.
Mhm.
I didn't finish this book, but I know Gabby did. Gone Tonight by Sarah Pekkanen.
Yeah.
Also like mother-daughter relationship-y.
Yeah.
Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister. Also
Mm.
kind of about family relationships, but it's a mother-son relationship. And then for people who didn't enjoy this book and you're looking for something better, I would recommend The Drowning Woman by Robin Harding. It's not so much about like family, but it's a lot about themes of like good and bad. When are you making the right choice, even if it's a wrong choice? And I thought that one was really good and twisty and fun.
Yeah. Yeah, those are all great. Wow.
You've read them all? Look at you.
Yeah.
I didn't read Gone Tonight. I DNF'd it, but
I haven't read any of those. I have The Drowning Woman is on my TBR, and I also have an e-arc of Wrong Place, Wrong Time that I've never read.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Gone Tonight. I wasn't a huge fan of that one, but I agree that it had similar like mother-daughter things happening. And then another one that I would think of on top of that I didn't like this one either, but Pieces of Her by Karen Slaughter also has a bit of that like mother-daughter, like mother has a secret past thing going on. I think the writing style itself in this book reminded me a lot of Ruth Ware, which I know that Elizabeth was talking about a little bit on her live show last night, like just to compare her to another thriller author, like I do think this one read more Ruth Ware to me than Alice Feeney. Like this read like a Ruth Ware book, which is maybe why I didn't like it, because Ruth Ware is such a like author for me.
I love Ruth Ware. You guys are really in this live show.
I'm so sorry.
No. Seriously, I'm just playing.
Like I've loved The Turn of the Key. That's like one of my favorite books of all time. But then everything else that I've read from Ruth Ware, I'm always just like disappointed.
I started with The Woman in Cabin 10,
Mm-hmm.
and I love that one so much. And that's what I say that she's like a favorite author of mine just because I love that book so much. But her endings are kind of iffy, so I get it.
Yeah. It's just I guess the style of it, because this feels like Ruth Ware to me because of the like slow burn mystery pacing of it and the way that the characters are slowly uncovering the clues. It just felt very like Ruth Ware to me. So it's just not really my kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's why I liked it so much. And I can't pinpoint that. I'm not good at like specifying, like differences or similarities in books or authors like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I Let You Go is also a good one to compare it to, I think. Yeah, because there's this something happened to a baby and now we have to figure it out. Yeah, interesting.
It's not the same, but it's a title with mothers or something that they were like in a club, and oh my gosh, I think it had like, The Perfect Mother. Have any of you read that one? You guys like my explanation? Like, bro. I think it's The Perfect Mother. Have you guys read that one? It has the same kind of like missing baby kind of situation, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's been a few years, but I think I did read that one. Yeah.
I don't think I did.
Yeah, that one's a good one too. All the Dangerous Things, because that one also has like the baby going missing. I really like that one, actually. That was a good one. So
there was a Jocelyn Jackson book recently. Too, but I can't remember what that one was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, sweet. Well, I think that just about wraps up everything that I wanted to talk about, unless there was anything else that you guys had, like final thoughts, any last, things. No.
That was all of them.
Yeah, that was all of them. Well, thank you so much to everybody for reading along with us this month. I really do appreciate it. And I'm also glad that we had, some of us who didn't like it, some of us who did, because I like having the conversation of, exploring why and having someone to represent everyone in the live chat, So thank you so much, both Ashley and Marcy, for taking the time this month to read along and join me on this live show. I really, really appreciate it. And I always have so much fun anytime that I interact with you guys. So thank you,
Gabby. Thank you so much
for having us.
Of course. And thank you all so much. Next month, before I forget, next month for the book troop, we are reading The Stranger Upstairs.
Love that cover.
Have either of you read this one yet?
Not yet, but I want to. So I'm going to join in.
I did. I'll withhold my opinion.
Oh, no. You're like, I hated it.
I'll probably love it then.
Yeah, I've been seeing mixed things so far, so I'm scared, but I'm excited.
It's a fast read. It'll go by fast, whether you like it or not.
That's good. Yeah, I'm just excited for this in October because I feel like it'll be like fun, spooky. So I'm hoping that's the case, because this one's about, as far as I know, it's about like an influencer who like renovates a creepy ass house, I guess.
Ooh.
So that's all I know. But yeah. So we'll be reading that in October. Thank you all so much for joining us for the month of September, and we will see you later. Have a good rest of your weekend. Bye.